The year was 2417, and humanity had reached farther into the stars than ever before. Colonies dotted distant planets, and fleets of ships patrolled the edges of known space. Earth's united fleet, a massive armada of warships bristling with weapons, stood ready to defend or conquer whatever lay beyond. Humanity's hunger for expansion seemed insatiable, but no one expected what happened next. It began with a flicker in the sensors aboard the flagship Invincible Dawn. Captain Elias Drake, a seasoned officer with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind, stared at the glowing screen in disbelief. A massive object had appeared near Jupiter, seemingly out of nowhere. It wasn't just any object, it was a ship, and it was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The vessel glowed faintly, its surface shimmering like liquid silver under the sun's light. Its design was sleek yet intricate, resembling a blade cutting through the void of space. Every curve and edge radiated purpose, as if crafted by hands far more advanced than human engineers could imagine. The ship dwarfed even the largest human dreadnoughts, and its presence sent ripples of unease through the fleet. "Report," Ilias barked, his voice steady despite the tension crackling in the air. "It's huge, sir," replied Lieutenant Marisolis, her fingers flying over her console. "No match in our database. Structural readings are off the charts. Whatever this thing is, it's not from around here." Elias frowned. Any signs of hostility? "No weapons charging, no shields raised," Mara said after a moment. "But that doesn't mean much. For all we know, they're scanning us right now." Elias nodded slowly. This was uncharted territory. First contact with an alien species was something humanity had dreamed about for centuries, but now that it was happening, fear mingled with excitement. Was this a chance to make history, or the beginning of a war? Before he could decide on their next move, the alien ship blinked to life. A beam of light shot out, bathing the bridge of the Invincible Dawn in soft, golden illumination. Then came a voice, calm, melodic, and utterly alien. Though none of the crew understood the language, the tone conveyed no threat. Instead, it felt almost curious. "They're hailing us," Mara whispered, wide-eyed. "Should I respond?" Elias hesitated. His instincts told him to proceed with caution, but curiosity burned within him. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Let's see who, or what, we're dealing with." The view screen flickered, and suddenly, the face of an alien appeared. She was tall and statuesque, her skin a deep shade of violet that shimmered faintly. Her eyes glowed softly, and her long flowing hair seemed to float around her head, defying gravity. She wore armor that looked both elegant and functional, adorned with intricate patterns that hinted at a rich culture. Behind her stood others like her, all women, each exuding strength and grace. "I am Commander Kalira of the Valith," she said in perfect English, her voice smooth and measured. "We come seeking knowledge, not conflict." The crew exchanged startled glances. How had these aliens learned their language so quickly? Elias leaned forward, narrowing his gaze. "I'm Captain Elias Drake of Earth's United Fleet. What is your business here?" Kalira tilted her head slightly, studying him with an expression that was neither hostile nor friendly. "Our mission is one of exploration. Your system lies along our path, and we wish to observe your kind." "Observe?" Elias echoed, suspicion creeping into his voice. "You expect us to believe you traveled across the galaxy just to observe?" Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Believe what you will, Captain, but rest assured, we mean you no harm." Despite her words, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. These aliens were too calm, too confident. Were they hiding something? Or worse, testing humanity's resolve? Before he could press further, alarms blared across the bridge. Another signal, a human one, had entered the area. On screen, a squadron of fighter jets approached, their engines roaring as they surrounded the alien ship. Admiral Victor Rask, commander of the fleet's most aggressive wing, had arrived. "This is Admiral Rask," came a gruff voice over the comms. "Stand down, alien vessel, or prepare to be destroyed." Kalira's serene demeanor didn't falter. "Your aggression is unnecessary," she replied evenly. "We seek only peace." Rask scoffed. "Peace doesn't exist without power. Surrender your ship, or we'll take it by force." Tension mounted as weapon systems powered up on both sides. Elias clenched his fists, torn between following protocol and preventing disaster. He knew Rask wouldn't hesitate to fire, but attacking such an advanced vessel would be suicide. Yet doing nothing might cost him his command, or worse, escalate into full-scale war. "Admiral, stand down," Elias ordered sharply. "We don't know what we're dealing with here." "And that's exactly why we need to act now," Rask shot back. "If we let them get away, who knows what they'll do next?" As the standoff intensified, Kalira spoke again, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. "War is beneath us. We will not fight unless forced. Choose wisely, humans." Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Then, with a reluctant sigh, Elias made his decision. Turning to Mara, he said quietly, "Patch me through to everyone. Let's try diplomacy. For now." The tension aboard the Invincible Dawn was palpable as Captain Elias Drake addressed both his crew and Admiral Rask's squadron. "We're not firing first," he declared firmly, his voice carrying authority despite the weight of the situation. "Commander Kalira has made it clear they don't want to fight. If we provoke them, we risk starting a war we may not survive." Rask's response came through the comms almost instantly, laced with frustration. "You're being naive, Drake. They could be lying. What if this peaceful act is just a cover for something worse? We can't afford to gamble with humanity's safety." Elias clenched his jaw but kept his tone steady. "Then let's find out what they really want before making any rash decisions. Stand down for now." Reluctantly, Rask ordered his fighters to pull back, though his displeasure was evident. The alien ship, the Radiant Blade, remained eerily still, its glowing surface reflecting Jupiter's faint light. Commander Kalira watched silently from her view screen, her expression unreadable. Negotiations began shortly after, with representatives from both sides meeting aboard the Invincible Dawn. A delegation of 3 Violet warriors accompanied Kalira, each radiating an aura of quiet strength. Their presence alone commanded respect, yet their demeanor remained calm and composed, a stark contrast to the nervous energy emanating from the human officers. Lieutenant Mara Solis served as one of the translators during the talks, though she quickly realized that translation wasn't the only challenge. The Valith communicated not just through words, but also subtle gestures and expressions that carried layers of meaning. It didn't help that many of the humans in the room struggled to mask their distrust. "We have traveled far to understand your kind," Kalira began, addressing the assembled group. "Your civilization fascinates us, yet much of what we observe puzzles us." "What do you mean?" asked Elias cautiously. Kalira gestured gracefully toward the holographic display showing Earth's history, images of wars, conflicts, and destruction flashing across the screen. "Your species seems consumed by conflict. Why do you fight so often when unity would bring greater progress?" Her question hung in the air, met with uneasy silence. For all their technological advancements, humanity's violent past was undeniable. Some of the officers shifted uncomfortably, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Admiral Rask stepped forward, his tone brusque. "Survival isn't easy. Sometimes fighting is the only way to protect ourselves, or take what we need." Kalira regarded him coolly. "And how has that worked for you? Has endless fighting brought peace, or merely more suffering?" Her words struck a nerve, especially with Mara, who had grown weary of humanity's constant battles. She couldn't deny the truth in Kalira's statement, even if it stung to hear it spoken aloud. As the discussions continued, cultural differences became increasingly apparent. When offered refreshments, the Valith politely declined, explaining that their bodies required sustenance different from human food. This led to awkward moments when some officers joked about how weak they must be compared to humans. Kalira ignored the comments, but her companions exchanged knowing looks, their patience wearing thin. Meanwhile, technical exchanges revealed another layer of disparity. The Vailith freely shared knowledge about sustainable energy sources and advanced medical techniques, stunning the scientists present. However, when asked about their weapons systems or defensive capabilities, they grew evasive. Our technology exists to preserve life, not destroy it, Kalira explained. Weapons are tools of last resort, used only to protect those who cannot defend themselves. This answer frustrated several members of the human delegation. To them, refusing to discuss combat strategies felt like hiding weaknesses rather than promoting ideals. Admiral Rask, in particular, grew visibly agitated. "You keep saying you're peaceful, but you won't show us your full potential," he accused. "How can we trust you if you're holding back?" Kalira's gaze hardened ever so slightly. "Trust is earned, not demanded. Perhaps instead of questioning our honesty, you should examine why you assume hostility where none exists." Back on the human ships, rumors spread rapidly. Stories circulated about the Vailith's supposed softness, fueling skepticism among the ranks. Many dismissed their claims of pacifism as a tactic to lull humanity into complacency. Others speculated that the radiant blade hid devastating firepower beneath its sleek exterior. A small faction of soldiers decided to test this theory. Under the cover of darkness, they launched a covert mission to board the alien vessel using cloaked shuttles. Their plan was simple: infiltrate, gather intelligence, and retreat undetected. But things went awry almost immediately. As soon as the intruders entered the radiant blade, alarms blared throughout the ship. Within minutes, they were surrounded by Vailith warriors moving with impossible speed and precision. The humans raised their weapons, expecting resistance, but the aliens simply disarmed them without striking a single blow. Kalira arrived moments later, flanked by two of her elite guards. Her expression was stern but controlled. "Why do you persist in provoking us?" she asked, addressing the captured humans directly. "We have done nothing to harm you." One of the soldiers spat defiantly. "Prove it. Show us you're not planning something bigger." Kalira sighed softly, as though burdened by a weight too heavy to carry. "Very well. Come with me." She led them to a chamber deep within the ship, where holographic projections displayed scenes of countless civilizations thriving under Vailith guidance. Planets once ravaged by war were now flourishing havens of cooperation and innovation. The message was clear: the Vailith weren't conquerors, they were guardians. Yet even this revelation failed to sway everyone. Back aboard the human fleet, opinions remained divided. While some began to see the aliens in a new light, others doubled down on their suspicions. Tensions simmered, threatening to boil over at any moment. For Mara, the experience left her questioning everything she thought she knew about humanity and herself. Could people truly change, or were they doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past? Only time would tell. The tension between the humans and the Vailith continued to simmer, but Kalira, ever composed, decided it was time for a gesture of goodwill. She invited a select group of human representatives aboard the Radiant Blade for a guided tour, hoping to bridge the gap between their species. Among those chosen was Lieutenant Marisolis, whose curiosity outweighed her initial skepticism. For Mara, this was an opportunity not just to learn about the aliens, but perhaps to understand why humanity seemed so quick to assume hostility. As the shuttle carrying the delegation approached the alien vessel, its shimmering surface appeared even more mesmerizing up close. The ship didn't look like it had been built. It looked alive, as though every curve and edge pulsed with energy. When the boarding ramp extended, the humans stepped onto the gleaming deck, their boots making no sound against the smooth metallic floor. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Kalira greeted them warmly, accompanied by her apprentice, Syra, a younger Vailith warrior with bright, curious eyes. Her presence softened the otherwise imposing aura of the delegation. "Welcome," Kalira said, her voice melodic yet firm. "We hope you will see that we are not your enemies." Mara nodded, trying to suppress her awe. Around her, some of the other humans exchanged wary glances, clearly uncomfortable in such unfamiliar surroundings. But as the tour began, something remarkable happened. Their defenses slowly started to lower. The first stop was a massive chamber filled with glowing orbs suspended midair. Each orb emitted soft pulses of light, creating intricate patterns that danced across the walls. Kalira explained that these were archives, containing centuries of knowledge collected by the Valeth during their travels. "Our mission is to preserve wisdom," she said, "not just for ourselves, but for all who seek understanding." One of the scientists in the group, Dr. Elena Park, stepped forward hesitantly. "Can we access this information?" she asked, her tone tinged with both excitement and caution. Kalira smiled faintly. "In time, yes. But knowledge must be earned, not taken lightly." Elena nodded, visibly impressed. For someone used to guarded secrets and classified data back on Earth, the idea of sharing knowledge freely felt almost alien itself, but undeniably inspiring. Next, they visited what Kalira called the Hall of Reflections. The room was circular, with walls covered in flowing, luminescent designs that shifted like liquid. At the center stood a pedestal, atop which rested a crystalline sphere. When Mara touched it cautiously, images flooded her mind. Scenes of distant worlds where the Valeth had intervened to end conflicts and foster peace. She saw cities rebuilt, ecosystems restored, and cultures united under banners of cooperation. "It's beautiful," Mara murmured, stepping back. "You really do dedicate yourselves to helping others." Syra spoke for the first time, her voice softer than Kalira's but equally earnest. "Helping is our purpose. War only brings ruin. We've learned that lesson many times over." Her words struck a chord with Mara. She thought about Earth's history, the endless cycle of violence, the countless lives lost in battles fought over land, resources, and power. Was there another way? Could humanity break free from its destructive tendencies? Later, they entered the training grounds, where Valeth warriors practiced their combat skills. Unlike human soldiers, who relied heavily on brute force and aggression, the Valeth moved with fluid grace, their motions precise and deliberate. They sparred without weapons, focusing instead on balance, timing, and strategy. Even when blows landed, they pulled back before causing harm, emphasizing control above all else. Captain Elias Drake watched silently, his arms crossed. "Your warriors are impressive," he admitted grudgingly. "But I still don't understand. If you're capable of defending yourselves, why refuse to fight unless absolutely necessary?" Kalira turned to him, her glowing eyes steady. "Because fighting solves nothing. It creates scars that last generations. True strength lies not in domination, but in restraint." Elias frowned, unsure how to respond. He had spent years commanding fleets, preparing for battles, and leading troops into conflict. To hear someone suggest that war wasn't the answer felt unsettling. As the tour progressed, Mara found herself drawn to Syra. The young apprentice radiated enthusiasm, eager to share stories about her people's philosophy and culture. Over cups of a strange, fragrant drink served in delicate containers, Syra explained that not all Valeth chose to become warriors. Some pursued careers in diplomacy, science, or the arts. "My dream," she confessed shyly, "is to one day negotiate peace treaties between warring civilizations. Fighting should always be the last resort." Mara couldn't help but smile. "That's noble. Back on Earth, most people wouldn't even consider that kind of path." "Why?" Syra asked, tilting her head curiously. "Don't your leaders value peace?" Mara hesitated, searching for the right words. "Some do, but too often, fear and greed get in the way. People think they have to fight to survive, or to win." Syra's expression grew thoughtful. "Perhaps they simply haven't seen another way." By the end of the tour, the atmosphere among the humans had shifted noticeably. While some remained skeptical, others began to question their assumptions. Dr. Park scribbled notes furiously, already envisioning ways to apply Vailith technology to solve Earth's environmental crisis. Even Elias seemed less confrontational, though his guard was far from fully lowered. But not everyone shared this newfound appreciation. Back aboard the human ships, Admiral Rask seethed at reports of the peaceful exchange. To him, the Vailith's refusal to engage in combat only confirmed their weakness and humanity's superiority. He began rallying support for a preemptive strike, convinced that the aliens were hiding something dangerous. Meanwhile, Mara wrestled with her own thoughts. Everything she had seen and heard challenged her beliefs about humanity's place in the universe. Were they truly destined to conquer and destroy, or could they learn to coexist like the Vailith? As she gazed out at the stars, one thing became clear. The choices made in the coming days would shape not just their future, but the fate of two species. Only time would reveal whether humanity was ready to rise above its instincts or repeat its mistakes. The fragile truce between humanity and the Vailith grew increasingly strained as whispers of dissent spread through the human fleet. Admiral Victor Rask, unwilling to accept Kalira's peaceful overtures, became a vocal advocate for aggression. His fiery speeches stirred fear and suspicion among the crew, painting the Vailith as deceptive invaders hiding sinister motives behind their calm facade. "They're stalling," Rask declared during a heated briefing aboard the Invincible Dawn. "Every moment we waste talking gives them more time to prepare whatever weapon they're hiding. We can't afford to wait any longer." Captain Elias Drake listened silently, his jaw tightening with each word. He knew Rask's arguments carried weight among certain factions, especially those eager to prove humanity's dominance in space. Yet Elias couldn't shake the feeling that attacking first would be a grave mistake. The Vailith had shown no signs of hostility, only patience and restraint. Still, how long could he hold off the growing pressure? Lieutenant Marisolis sat quietly at the back of the room, her thoughts racing. She had seen firsthand the Vailith's philosophy of peace and preservation. Their actions didn't align with the image of ruthless conquerors Rask was trying to create, but doubt lingered in her mind too. What if they were underestimating the aliens? Could their apparent kindness mask something darker? That night, Mara found herself unable to sleep. She wandered the corridors of the Invincible Dawn, her footsteps echoing softly against the metal walls. Eventually, she ended up on the observation deck, staring out at the vast expanse of stars. Nearby, Jupiter loomed large, its swirling storms casting an eerie glow across the ship's windows. Beyond it floated the radiant blade, its shimmering surface glinting faintly in the distance. As she gazed at the alien vessel, Mara heard soft footsteps behind her. Turning, she saw Dr. Elena Park approaching, clutching a datapad filled with notes from their visit to the Vailith ship. The scientist looked troubled, her usual curiosity replaced by unease. "Can't sleep either?" Mara asked, offering a small smile. Elena shook her head. "Too much to process. Everything we saw. It's incredible. But I keep wondering, why are they so different from us? How did they manage to move past war when we're still stuck in this cycle?" Mara sighed. "Maybe because they learned something we haven't yet. Or maybe," she hesitated, unsure how to finish the thought. "Maybe what?" Elena prompted gently. "Maybe we're not ready to hear it," Mara admitted. "We've spent centuries fighting over everything: land, power, resources. Peace doesn't come naturally to us. It's easier to see enemies everywhere than to trust someone who says they mean no harm." Elena nodded slowly. "You think Admiral Rask is wrong, don't you?" "I know he is," Mara said firmly. "But convincing others won't be easy. Fear is powerful. And right now, Rask is using it to push his agenda." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message flashing across Mara's wrist communicator. It was from Captain Drake, summoning her to the bridge immediately. When she arrived, the tension was palpable. Screens displayed data feeds showing unusual activity near the radiant blade. Several smaller crafts had detached from the alien ship, moving toward the edge of the system. "What's going on?" Mara asked, scanning the readouts. "We don't know," Elias replied grimly. "They claim these ships are routine scouts, but Rask insists it's a prelude to an attack." Before anyone could respond, another transmission came through, from Kellyra herself. Her serene face appeared on the main view screen, her glowing eyes meeting theirs without hesitation. "Humans," she began, her tone measured but firm. "Your distrust wounds us deeply. These vessels are exploratory units, sent to gather information about your solar system. They pose no threat. If you continue to misinterpret our actions, this fragile peace may shatter beyond repair." Her word hung heavy in the air. While some officers exchanged uneasy glances, Rask scoffed loudly. "More lies," he spat. "She expects us to believe that flimsy excuse." Kalira's expression darkened slightly, though her voice remained calm. "Believe what you wish, Admiral. But know this: provoking conflict will only bring suffering to both our peoples. Is that truly what you desire?" Rask clenched his fists but said nothing. Instead, he stormed out of the bridge, muttering under his breath about traitors and cowards. Mara watched him go, her heart sinking. She knew Rask wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted: a fight. Later that day, tensions reached a breaking point. A group of soldiers loyal to Rask attempted to sabotage the communication systems, linking the human fleet to the Radiant Blade. Their goal was simple: cut off contact and force Captain Drake's hand. However, the plan failed when Mara intercepted them while investigating suspicious activity near the engineering bay. "What are you doing?" she demanded, catching two men tampering with critical equipment. One of them sneered, "Making sure the aliens don't trick us again. You gonna stop us?" Maris stood her ground, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "If you do this, you'll start a war we might not survive. Is that worth it?" For a moment, the men hesitated. Then one of them snarled, "Stay out of our way, Lieutenant." With that, they fled, leaving Mara shaken but determined. She reported the incident to Captain Drake immediately. Though furious, Elias realized he couldn't punish the men without sparking outright rebellion within the ranks. Instead, he issued a fleet-wide order reinforcing the importance of maintaining peace, at least for now. Amidst the chaos, Mara sought guidance from an unexpected source: Syra. Using a secure channel, she contacted the young Valeth apprentice, explaining the rising unrest among her people. Syra listened intently before responding. "Fear often drives such behavior. Your kind has known pain and loss, so it's natural to expect betrayal. But remember, trust must be nurtured, even in difficult times." Mara nodded, finding comfort in the alien's wisdom. "I just hope we can avoid disaster long enough to learn from you." Syra smiled faintly. "Perhaps learning begins with listening. Trust yourself, Mara. You carry the potential to change hearts, even if it feels impossible." As the transmission ended, Mara resolved to act. She couldn't let Rask's reckless ambition destroy the fragile bond forming between their species, but standing against him would require courage, and allies willing to risk everything for peace. The shadow of doubt loomed large, threatening to engulf them all. Yet somewhere within the darkness, a spark of hope flickered, waiting to ignite. The fragile peace between humanity and the Valeth teetered on the edge of collapse as Admiral Victor Rask's patience ran out. Convinced that diplomacy was a waste of time, he secretly rallied a faction of like-minded officers and soldiers, promising swift action to neutralize what he saw as an alien threat. To him, every moment spent negotiating with Kellyra only gave the Valeth more time to prepare for whatever sinister plan they were hiding. Late one evening, under the cover of darkness, Rask made his move. Gathering a squadron of heavily armed fighters and 2 cruisers loyal to his cause, he launched a surprise assault on the Radiant Blade. His orders were clear: disable the alien ship systems and force its surrender, or destroy it if necessary. On board the Invincible Dawn, Captain Elias Drake was jolted awake by the sound of alarms blaring across the ship. Rushing to the bridge, he found chaos unfolding. Screens displayed real-time footage of Rask's fleet breaking formation and charging toward the alien vessel. Weapons fire erupted in flashes of light, illuminating the void of space. "What's happening?" Elias demanded, his voice sharp with urgency. Lieutenant Marisolis turned to him, her face pale. "It's Rask. He's attacking the Radiant Blade without authorization." Elias clenched his fists, anger boiling beneath his calm exterior. "Patch me through to his command immediately." Seconds later, Rask's gruff voice crackled over the comms. "Drake, stay out of this. The aliens are too dangerous to be trusted. If you won't act, I will." "This is mutiny." Elias snapped. "Stand down, Admiral, or I'll have no choice but to intervene." Rask laughed coldly. "You've had your chance to negotiate, and look where it got us. Nowhere. Let me handle this my way." Before Elias could respond, the situation escalated further. On screen, beams of energy lanced out from Rask's ships, striking the Radiant Blade. But instead of exploding or retaliating, the alien vessel shimmered faintly, deflecting the attacks effortlessly. It was as though the weapons were bouncing off an invisible shield. "They're not even fighting back," Mara whispered, awe mixing with dread. "Why aren't they defending themselves?" Kalira's voice suddenly cut through the comm channels, calm but resolute. "Your aggression proves our point, humans. War solves nothing. We will not harm you, even if it costs us everything." Her words sent ripples of unease through the crew of the Invincible Dawn. Some stared at the screens in disbelief, while others exchanged nervous glances. Even Elias, who had always been cautious around the Valeth, couldn't deny the power of their restraint. What kind of species would allow itself to be attacked without striking back? Meanwhile, aboard the Radiant Blade, Syra stood beside Kalira, watching the battle unfold. The young apprentice's hands trembled slightly, but her expression remained composed. "Commander," she said softly, "shouldn't we activate our defenses? They're firing upon us openly now." Kalira shook her head. "No, Syra. Their fear blinds them. If we retaliate, we validate their assumptions about us. Sometimes showing mercy is the strongest response." Syra nodded reluctantly, though doubt lingered in her eyes. She glanced at the view screen, where explosions lit up the darkness as Rask's forces continued their futile barrage. "But what if they don't stop?" "They will," Kalira replied firmly, "or they'll learn the hard way that violence breeds only more violence." Back on the human side, tensions reached a fever pitch. Rask's reckless attack had divided the fleet. While some supported his actions, others began questioning whether provoking the Valeth was worth the risk. Among them was Dr. Elena Park, who stormed onto the bridge of the Invincible Dawn, her face flushed with frustration. "Captain Drake, we can't let this continue," she exclaimed. "These aliens are clearly advanced beyond anything we've encountered. Attacking them blindly could lead to disaster." Elias rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of leadership pressing down on him. "I know, Doctor, but Rask isn't listening to reason. If I try to stop him directly, it could spark outright rebellion within the ranks." Mara stepped forward, determination burning in her eyes. "Then let me talk to him. Maybe I can get through to him before things spiral completely out of control." Elias hesitated, then nodded. "Be careful, Lieutenant. Rask isn't someone to take lightly." Mara boarded a shuttle and headed toward Rask's flagship, her heart pounding with anxiety. When she arrived, she was escorted to the bridge, where the Admiral stood with arms crossed, glaring at the view screen showing the Radiant Blade. Despite the ongoing assault, the alien ship remained unscathed, its surface glowing faintly as if mocking their efforts. "What do you want, Solus?" Rask growled, not bothering to turn around. "To stop this madness," Mara replied evenly. "Admiral, you're risking everything. For what?" "To prove a point. Look at them. They're not fighting back. Doesn't that tell you something?" Rask finally faced her, his expression darkening. "It tells me they're weak, hiding behind false promises of peace. If we don't strike now, they'll gain the upper hand later." "You're wrong," Mara countered, her voice rising slightly. "They've shown us nothing but restraint. Attacking them won't make us stronger. It'll make us monsters. Is that really how you want history to remember us?" For a brief moment, uncertainty flickered in Rask's eyes. But then his jaw tightened, and he dismissed her argument with a wave of his hand. "History is written by the victors, Lieutenant. Now step aside and let me finish what needs to be done." Defeated but unwilling to give up, Mara transmitted an urgent message to Captain Drake. "Sir, Rask won't listen. You need to intervene before it's too late." Elias didn't hesitate. Activating the fleet-wide comms, he addressed both Rask's forces and the rest of the fleet. "This ends now," he declared, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Admiral Rask, stand down immediately or face charges of insubordination and treason." "That's an order." Rask's face twisted with fury. "You'd side with them over your own people." He spat. "Fine. But when this goes south, don't say I didn't warn you." Reluctantly, he ordered his ships to cease fire, though the tension remained thick enough to cut with a knife. As the dust settled, all eyes turned to the radiant blade. The alien vessel hovered silently, its surface undamaged, as if daring the humans to try again. Later that night, Mara found herself reflecting on the day's events. Though disaster had been narrowly avoided, she knew the rift between factions wouldn't heal easily. Humanity's fear and mistrust of the unknown still ran deep. Yet amidst the turmoil, a glimmer of hope persisted. Perhaps, just perhaps, this encounter would force people to confront their own flaws and begin the long journey toward change. As she gazed out at the stars, she whispered to herself, "We're not ready yet, but maybe someday we will be." The aftermath of Rask's failed assault left the human fleet in a state of uneasy calm. While Admiral Victor Rask had been forced to stand down, his actions had sown seeds of discord that threatened to fracture the fragile unity among humanity's ranks. Some officers openly criticized Captain Elias Drake for opposing Rask, accusing him of weakness and misplaced trust in the Vailith. Others, however, began to question whether their species' reliance on aggression was truly the right path forward. On board the Radiant Blade, Commander Kaylira addressed her crew with quiet resolve. Though unharmed by the attack, she understood the gravity of what had transpired. Their fear speaks louder than their weapons, she told Syra and the other warriors gathered before her. But fear can be overcome with understanding. We must show them that peace is not a sign of weakness, it is strength. Though challenges lay ahead, the seeds of change had been planted. Humanity's journey toward peace would be long and difficult, but for the first time, hope burned brightly enough to light the way. The return to Sol system marked the beginning of a pivotal chapter in humanity's history. News of the joint mission and the discovery of the ancient ruins spread like wildfire across Earth and its colonies. Images of the intricate carvings, holographic projections, and shared symbols captivated the public imagination. For the first time, humanity was forced to confront the possibility that they were not alone, not just in space, but in their origins. Media outlets buzzed with debates about the implications of the findings. Some dismissed the ruins as coincidental or fabricated, clinging to skepticism born of fear. But others saw them as proof of a deeper connection between species, a reminder that cooperation, not conflict, had once allowed an advanced civilization to flourish. These revelations sparked movements advocating for peace, disarmament, and unity among fractured nations. Admiral Victor Rask, however, remained unyielding in his opposition. Though stripped of command following his mutiny, he became a rallying figure for those who viewed the Vailith as a threat. His fiery speeches ignited protests on Earth and calls for increased militarization. "We cannot afford to trust aliens," he declared during one broadcast. "Their presence is a danger to our survival." Yet even Rask's influence began to wane as more people embraced the lessons learned from the Radiant Blade. Captain Elias Drake emerged as a voice of reason, addressing global assemblies and urging humanity to rise above its fears. "The Valeth has shown us another way," he said in a widely televised speech. "They've demonstrated strength through restraint and wisdom through patience. If we reject this opportunity, we doom ourselves to repeat the mistakes of the past." Lieutenant Marisolis played a key role in spreading the message of hope. Her first-hand accounts of life aboard the Radiant Blade inspired countless individuals to reconsider their assumptions about alien species. She traveled across Earth and the colonies, sharing stories of Kalira's compassion, Syrah's determination, and the profound impact of working alongside beings so different yet strikingly similar. Meanwhile, aboard the Radiant Blade, Commander Kalira prepared her crew for departure. Though she had hoped to leave behind lasting change, she understood that true transformation would take time. Before leaving, she addressed the human fleet one final time. "Your journey does not end here," she said, her glowing eyes filled with quiet resolve. "It is only the beginning. Remember what you've seen and heard. Choose wisely, for your actions will shape not just your future, but ours as well." Her words resonated deeply, especially with Mara, who bid farewell to Syrah with a mixture of gratitude and sadness. The young apprentice had grown into a confident diplomat, her dreams of fostering peace now closer than ever to reality. "Will we see each other again?" Mara asked as they stood together near the shuttle bay. Sylera smiled warmly. "I believe we will. Until then, carry the lessons you've learned back to your people. That is how we continue to grow, together." With a final embrace, they parted ways, each carrying the weight of newfound responsibility. As the Radiant Blade departed, disappearing into the vast expanse of stars, humanity faced a crossroads. On one side lay the familiar path of division and aggression. On the other, the uncertain but promising road toward unity and understanding. The choice was theirs to make. In the months that followed, small but significant changes began to emerge. Peace treaties were signed between warring factions on Earth, inspired by the Valeth philosophy of coexistence. Scientists collaborated with military leaders to repurpose weapons technology for humanitarian aid. And children in classrooms across the globe studied images of the ancient ruins, learning about the shared ancestry that bound humanity and the Valeth. Even Admiral Rask's followers dwindled as public sentiment shifted. While pockets of resistance remained, the tide had turned decisively toward progress. Humanity still had far to go, but the seeds planted during the mission continued to grow, nurtured by those willing to envision a better future. Captain Drake watched these developments unfold with cautious optimism. Standing on the observation deck of the Invincible Dawn, he gazed out at the stars, reflecting on all that had transpired. "It won't be easy," he murmured to himself. "But maybe, just maybe, we're ready to try." Mara joined him moments later, her expression thoughtful. "Do you think we can really change, sir, after everything?" Drake turned to her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that change starts with belief. And if enough people believe in something better, anything is possible." Together, they watched as the distant glow of Jupiter faded into the blackness, a silent reminder of where their journey had begun, and how far they still had to go. Far beyond the reaches of human exploration, the Radiant Blade sailed onward, its shimmering surface reflecting the light of countless suns. Kalira stood on the bridge, gazing at the stars ahead. Though her mission in Sol system was complete, she knew her work was far from over. Somewhere out there, new civilizations awaited, some eager to learn, others consumed by fear. But no matter the challenges, she vowed to continue guiding them toward harmony. For both humanity and the Valeth, the universe remained vast and full of mysteries. Yet amidst the infinite possibilities, one truth shone brightly. The power to choose a better path rested within themselves. And though the road ahead would be long, the dawn of a new era had already begun to break.